Hi, welcome everyone. I'm Sonia. I'm one of the co-founders of Lit Community, and I'm here today with one of our members, Khumo. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Khumo Masege. I don't know how to introduce myself, what title to use. I'm a New
A
York lit.
human being.
I'm a human being. I think see, the introduction is always hard. I should have asked this first because I never know how to start. I'm South African. I'm a human. I'm a therapist sometimes and a creator, and I'm really glad to be here.
What made you become a therapist, or especially a location independent therapist? What's your journey been like?
Oof, what made me become a therapist? Well, I lived in the US for 9 years. I went there to study after finishing high school. So I was there for all of undergrad. I did grad school and I worked for a bit. I always, from the beginning of school or university, I guess, I knew I wanted to be a psychologist. I just didn't quite know what that would look like. So I studied clinical psych my undergrad, and then I did a master's of counseling psych, and then kind of got into the specialty of LGBTQ issues, and then kind of dove further into. I had some really incredible mentors who taught me a lot about systems theory and systems work, which kind of works a lot with the intersections of identity and how the systems that we live under affect the way that we process and internalize the world. And so, funny enough, deciding to be location independent was a little bit of a falling into and then a personal choice. The falling into is because I left the US not of my own choice. My visa ended. I wanted to go back and I was kind of in the process of doing that. And then with time, I kind of, especially kind of integrating with some of the systems work, kind of learning about the ways that systems keep us entrenched in them and how we kind of find ourselves doing things a specific way because we're taught that we're supposed to, or somebody told us that we have to. And so I kind of started to further analyze why I wanted to go back, what it was about America that seemed so enticing or interesting. And I think it offered me some version of stability, but even in that stability, I was really stressed out and frustrated and didn't really feel as fulfilled as I think I wanted to be. So I kind of got acquainted with what it would look like to have South Africa be my home base and travel from here or build my business online. So I kind of fell into being location independent because my license was in the US and my home is now back in South Africa. But I think the personal choice of doing it kind of came from wanting to embody the work that I do. I talk to my clients so much about deconstructing their attachment to titles and labels and what you're told you're supposed to be. And so I think it just made sense that I also embody the things that I was trying to teach, that I try to be mindful about the discomfort that comes with letting yourself learn something that feels unfamiliar, that feels maybe in opposition to what society tells you that you should be like. That was a long-winded way of answering that question.
But it's also very fitting with the fact that we always see in the lit community when, people join on the Zoom calls and you see the names, those
Mhm.
with all the letters after the name always have the US education. That's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
really interesting what we associate with those titles and what they mean and how they mean such different things across the world and how it can get really complicated when you move countries. So when you try to live that more location independent life, but you're doing it and mostly enjoying it. So congrats. Um, what kind of clients do you work with currently, or what kind of clients should, if they see this video, contact you? Who are you a
Yeah.
good fit for?
Yeah, so I mostly work with LGBTQ folks. I love working with folks of the African diaspora. So most of my clients are either in South Africa or on the continent, and or they are folks who travel a lot. So either folks who are in the US moving around or in other countries. I have a few folks in the Middle East, somewhere in Europe. So I love working with LGBTQ folks who are trying to figure out what community and belonging looks like in a new place, but also folks who are navigating relational experiences either with family or with self. Yeah, I love to do somatic work, so it's kind of body focused, trying to figure out how do we regulate the discomfort of trying new things, of being in new places, of finding self. You know, I think for a lot of folks who are moving from place to place or have moved at some point in their lives, it can be really challenging to figure out what identity is. I think even for me, I'm still trying to figure out what does home mean to me. And so I really love working with and resonate with folks who are on that journey, who are trying to figure out what does living fully in yourself mean, because in many ways it's being a person who moves around means that you are mostly rejecting what people say you're supposed to do, which is stay in one place and have one job for your whole life. But also being a queer person also means that you are rejecting what society told you that you're supposed to be like, or who you're supposed to be with, or what you're supposed to look like. And so I think they all kind of intertwine with each other really beautifully. Some folks that I work with are also neurodivergent, and so sometimes asking for accommodation in spaces is something that comes up when it comes to work, or figuring out, you know, how do you build your own thing and know how to navigate what neurodivergence brings up in that space. So it's a conglomerate of things, but I think most most importantly, it's folks who are just figuring out what true self is or core self is wherever they are, especially if they're not aligning with what they've been told they're supposed to be.
Fascinating topics. Sounds like working with your clients must be really interesting and such diverse kind
Yeah.
of, yeah, people coming from different parts of the world and different topics, but kind of with a core
Hmm.
um, thing as well, right? Would
Yeah.
want that. Just personally, I'm like, yes. What is home when you're a little nomad? You know, when you grow up with multiple cultures, when, you
Yeah,
know, you
exactly,
are in an intercultural
exactly.
relationship, when, you know, and then you add some more layers to that. And yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird thing to be, especially now in the world, no one is exactly where they're supposed to be. You know, we're very few of us, even if you are in one country, you're still, for example, in South Africa, we kind of came out of apartheid, which was our version of segregation. And there is this, for the most part, there was a sense of like moving people around because the majority white space kind of was like, this is where you should be, or this is where you should be, which separated so many cultures and ethnic groups. And now, having moved out of apartheid, there are groups of people who are in different areas than they're originally from. And so children are growing up around more diverse people. And I think this is the case around the world. But that means that what your parents consider to be home might not be what you do. And how you build that is going to also look very different to other people. So I think it's applicable across the board and in lots of contexts, especially for people of color. Yeah.
Yeah. And if we have any colleagues watching, what would you like to tell them? Do you have anything to, any
Ooh.
message to colleagues who are maybe considering working slightly differently from the norm or trying something different or moving countries as well or working with the type of clients you work with?
Yeah. I think something that sticks out to me that I've learned from this community and truly from you a lot is to let go of the fear of doing things the wrong way.
Mhm.
I think that, you know, at the core of this work, it's helping. You know, what we want to do at the end of the day is help.
Yeah.
And we can't help unless we feel safe and regulated with ourselves. And so if that means moving or trying something new or going somewhere different, you know, then do it so that you can help from the best place possible for you. I also think something that I learned in my youth is fear. I functioned with a lot of fear of doing it wrong and wanting to do it the right way. And I think I'm still working through that, but I think I'm slowly kind of divesting from the title piece of it all. If I do this work in a way that feels fulfilling to me and useful for the people that I work with, then it's enough. It doesn't matter how I do it. And I'm trying every day, all the time, to embody that because I think when I in the moments that I do, I find the most success in this work. So yeah, I definitely think letting go of the fear of doing it wrong.
Yeah, not an easy one,
Yeah.
but really important. And
Yeah.
I was also, while listening to you, I was thinking about how I think one of the things that really scare me when I look at it more is how many colleagues do this work in an unsustainable way, like
Mm.
seeing 40, 50 clients a week because the insurance doesn't pay much and it's the only way they can do it, or whatever else it is that they're trying to do because that's how it's supposed to be, or like being so underpaid that they can't, getting paid less than
Yeah.
the cleaner next door or whatever it is. And yes, probably we should pay the cleaner more as well, but like how do we make this work be sustainable for ourselves? We spend our days helping people
Yeah.
live a better life and take care of themselves, but we are often so bad at taking care of ourselves.
Yeah.
And like I know when I tell people, yeah, of course I take like 2 to 3 months off a year where I don't work at all and I'm not available. Like, what is that? How is that? That's
Mhm.
not possible as a therapist. In
Yeah.
some countries, in some cultures, that's really out there.
Yeah.
Need it. And obviously I've been doing it for a while. I figured out what works for me, but it's important to set up a business that works for us and not the other way around. And
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
wanted to be a digital nomad. I want to have the location independent life because I have homes on 2 continents and well, I want to spend time there. So
Yeah.
yeah, or at least that's why it's not actually why I started originally, but it's why I kept going. And my reasons have changed a bit over time. But yeah, I, yeah, it's not, like my life is good, but when I see the colleagues out there and if anyone is watching, I think maybe that's a part of the message I would like to add of like, yes, it's
Yeah.
possible. And
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
you deserve it, like you deserve it too, like not just our clients.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. And it's really hard. I think as you're speaking about it, I'm thinking about a I think it's a thing that psychologists and folks in the mental health field hear a lot, which is like, oh, you only see like 3 people a day? Like, is that a whole day's work? I think I've also had to undo this idea that if I'm not working from 9 to 5, then it must not be a full day's work, or I haven't put in as much effort as another person, or that like because somebody is not exactly telling me what to do, that it must not be valuable work. And I think that that's definitely a deep unlearning that we have to do. That's also attached to systems, right? It's like a system that's telling you that your work is valuable only if you earn this much, or only if you do it in this way, or only if, insert XYZ here. And so I think it's, even for me, it's still an unlearning to this day to kind of, especially because I'm around people who work in different sectors and they go to work from 9 to 5. And I'm here and I'm like, okay, like I see my few clients a day. And then sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go watch a TV show now. Or, like it's kind of having to attend to the emotional pieces of this work is also work. It's hard. It requires me to be okay so that I can show up in a way that's okay. And there are other folks who have capacity to see 9 or 10 people a day and maybe only do it 2 days out of the week, and that's how they navigate it. But I think what's important about it is that you're doing it in a way that works for you, rather than kind of trying to create a system that you've been told is
Yeah.
supposed to work or will get you to a place of success. I think most of us, the older we get, we kind of learn that there isn't really a path. It's kind of everyone just doing whatever they think is best and works for them and being okay with that. Yeah.
I think it's one of the things that was kind of really scary, but also really freeing about starting this 10 journey 10 years ago is no one was doing it. So there was
Mm.
just no one around to tell me how to do it, which was really scary, but also really freeing because, well, if I have to make it up, can make it up the way it works for me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it has luckily, and I'm really happy about that, become more the norm that people now work online and work across borders, and that we help people even when they move to a new place, and that we keep working with them and all these things, and that we can move as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
we need help doing that. We need systems, and we need colleagues, and we need
Yeah.
community. It comes back to that as well.
Yeah.
So you're a member of our community. What's one of your favorite things about our community? Is there anything you've been
Oh.
enjoying, or that's been a surprise, or that a reason why you joined maybe?
Ooh, let me think. The reason that I joined because that fear was really loud about what I was doing. I started this business because I came back to South Africa and I was like, okay, this is gonna hold me over till I go back. And here I am 2.5 years later, and
Uh-huh.
having found this community has been like a breath of fresh air because I think one of the first things I joined was maybe a coaching call, and I kind of was like, I'm just gonna sit back and listen. And it just felt like people were saying so many things that I was thinking that, I hadn't said a word, and it felt like everyone kind of, even though it was the same kinds of fears or discomforts, it was a sense of like, okay, we're doing something that feels different to what other people are doing and are also inspired by other folks who were there who were saying or letting us know that it would be okay. It doesn't feel like as big of a hill as it looks. And every time I join a coaching call, I particularly love those because I just love hearing what other folks are working on, but also that there is so much comfort that I get from it whenever I feel like I maybe don't know what I'm doing or like I don't know how to do it or where to get specific resources. It feels like I'm kind of brought back to a sense of maybe it's like a sense of homeostasis, I'd say as a somatic person, where it's like, okay, it's fine. You're doing okay. You're going to be okay. And even if it doesn't look like what you want it to look like or what you thought it would look like, it's still going to be really good. So, yeah, I think that's what I've enjoyed most about it. It's just the familiarity of this community, even though it's people I have never met before.
Mhm.
And I've also met lots of new people.
And who work for from different countries, different training, different backgrounds, different languages. I mean, obviously, the main la community language is English, but yeah, it's interesting how we all have the same thoughts and fears and doubts, even though we come from such different backgrounds. And
Yeah.
at the same time, it's really funny how the clients don't have that problem. They want to
Mm,
work with us. Like
yeah.
those
Yeah.
weird things where the colleagues and the systems are the ones that are not really ready for anyone doing something that's a bit different, or I mean, they're slowly coming around, but very, very slowly. But the clients were always ready because they knew they needed to access counseling, therapy, coaching, whatever it is, some kind of mental health support with someone who understands them. And
Right.
if you live in a foreign country, or if you live in a small town, it might be really difficult to find someone who understands you, who is the right fit for you. And
Yeah.
so as soon as the technology was there, clients were searching for help online and across borders because they knew that's what they needed. Now we just need to make sure that they find us and that the right type of people find us, and that we don't listen too much to those colleagues who don't understand what we're doing, and that we surround
Yeah.
ourselves more with colleagues who do and to
Yeah.
support it. Because yeah, I find that really weird, that duality of like the clients want it, it's the colleagues who are like, but you can't do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. that was one of my favorite lessons, and I think, something that was reinforced when I first got into this field. My supervisor at the time, I was like, okay, I have to work from like 6 to 9 p.m. because that's when people get off of work and that's the only time that people will see me. And my supervisor was like, no, they won't. The people who are looking for you will find you. So if you want to work from 10 a.m. till 1 p.m., the people who fit into that time will find you. Right. And I think it was then reinforced again in, one of our coaching calls where it was kind of like, your ideal client is going to find you. And I'm also like, I've trying to find my own therapist and realizing like I need somebody who can kind of like integrate all of these different cultural experiences. And so like they're not exactly an American therapist
Mhm.
because that's not a country or culture that that I grew up in, but it's not exactly a South African therapist. It's somebody who's kind of like, navigating the duality of both. I'm like, well, I'm the kind of therapist that I would be looking for. And so, you know, the people who are looking for me are out there. And I think that that's a really beautiful and helpful way that I continue to navigate this work. It's something that always sits with me, that the people who are looking for you will find you. Make sure that you are putting yourself out there, marketing yourself in a way that is a reflection of you, not a reflection of what you're supposed to say or who you're supposed to be online based off of all of these random and kind of arbitrary narratives of what works and what doesn't. Yeah.
And with this video, you're putting yourself out there a little bit more. We're going to share some ways of getting in contact with you in the comments and description of the video. Is there anything you would like to say before we end this call?
No, not really. I think, yeah, I think I always kind of come back to it's gonna be okay.
Mhm.
Right? I think there's always space for learning. You don't like get to a place where you're at the peak of something and then all you can do is go down. You'll always be growing and learning. And I think that's one of my most important reminders because I'm a person who loves to think that I'm going towards one specific goal. But it's been one of my favorite things about this community that everyone is just trying to learn from each other, and it's been great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you in one of our community calls soon, maybe another coaching call. If
Absolutely.
anyone watching this thinks, realizes now Kumo is exactly the right therapist for you, go contact her. You will find the
Yay.
links in the comments and find out more about the lit community as well. And if you're a colleague who would also like a bit more connection and support, come join us. And then we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.